People go missing every day, whether intentionally or unintentionally, but there's something particularly uneasy about disappearing underground. Whether as an explorer who appears to have mysteriously disappeared by accident, or someone who intentionally wanted to do so, the circumstances regarding these documented cases of disappearances remain a mystery to this day. Here are 10 people who mysteriously vanished underground. Number 10 is Ben McDaniel. Ben McDaniel vanished in 2010 while diving in some caves in an area known as the Vortex in Florida. Most people at the time believed that Ben had simply died in an accident down there. However, strange anomalies associated with his death have left people to ponder what really happened to him. His spare air tanks were found in an unusual spot in the caves. It turns out Ben was also in a lot of financial trouble at the time. His brother had also recently died, and Ben had been traumatized by finding the body. The last man to see Ben alive also died soon after under suspicious circumstances. Some believe that Ben killed himself down there in those caves. Others say that he faked his death, and some believe that he was murdered down there. The only thing that authorities or the population at large knows is that Ben was never found. Number 9 is Niomi Uemura. Niomi Uemura was one of the most famous Japanese adventurers of his time. He was famous for death-defying solo expeditions, which even the most experienced teams had struggled to pull off. Among his achievements, he was the first person to raft through the Amazon River on his own, and he was the first person to reach the North Pole by himself. Unfortunately, in the winter of 1984, his incredible achievements stopped when he vanished. He'd just reached the peak of Denali, the highest peak in North America. On his way down, he encountered a terrible storm, and to save his life, he did the only thing that he could. He started digging. He dug beneath the snowy surface of the mountain and hid in a cave. There, he left a diary which recorded his thoughts on his adventure, but Niomi himself was lost forever. Number 8 is Ludwig Leichhardt. In 1848, a scientist called Ludwig Leichhardt vanished in the Australian outback. Along with him, 7 men, 20 mules, 7 horses, and all of their gear vanished. It remains one of Australia's most fascinating mysteries. Ludwig was known as a heroic explorer, and he wanted to explore the center of the Australian continent, a place still covered in mystery at that time. The only piece of evidence that Ludwig made part of the journey was a piece of metal with his name engraved on it, stuffed inside of a tree with the letter L carved onto it. Several theories have been proposed, but since no sign of such a large party has been found above ground, some are now wondering if Ludwig and his team ventured into a cave system, only to be lost in a terrible accident. For now, the truth still remains unanswered. Number 7 is Jeffrey Bush. All of the disappearances on this list involve people who voluntarily went underground. But in the case of Jeffrey Bush, it was the subterranean darkness which reached up to the surface and pulled him under. In March of 2013, Jeffrey was asleep in his Florida home. Suddenly, beneath the foundations of his house, an enormous hole opened up in the ground. It pulled the entire house down into the darkness, and Jeffrey along with it. The phenomenon is known as a sinkhole, and it's very difficult to predict when one might open up. There's also no way of knowing for certain just how deep any hole might be. It's for this reason that Jeffrey's final resting place was never found. 2 years later, after the hole had been filled in, the hole opened up once more. It would appear that the darkness beneath it wasn't quite finished. Number 6 is the unknown tourist. The Mammoth Cave system can be found in the forests and hills of Kentucky. It's the largest known cave in the world, and with such a large network of caverns and passages, it's no wonder that Mammoth Cave hides some dark secrets and disappearances. And one of the most captivating is that of the unknown tourist. An anonymous cave guide recorded a chilling encounter inside the cave. She had been leading a group of cavers through part of the system and stopped to point out the features of a dark passage. Looking back, she noticed a man at the rear of the group who she didn't recognize. He was certainly not part of their tour group. The guide continued on, however, until she reached the surface. When she did a head count, the man had vanished without a trace, with the very real possibility that he was lost underground. Number 5 is Catacomb Explorer. One of the most famous disappearances underground is that of the Catacombs Explorer. What's so compelling about this case is that the disappearance was recorded on video. Deep beneath the city streets of Paris, the catacombs are a network of passages which attract millions of tourists. Some of the passages contain the skeletons of thousands of Parisians whose bodies were moved there when local cemeteries were flooded. One day, an abandoned video camera was found in one of these passages. The video revealed an unidentified man's explorations of the tunnel. He recorded his descent into the catacombs, but eventually seemed scared by something. He suddenly turned and started running back the way that he came, only to eventually drop the camera where it was found. No one knows what he was running from or if he ever made it out alive. Number 4 is Luis Hernandez. Those working down mines know the risks. Cave-ins, poisonous gas, drill accidents. All of these can be commonplace. It's no surprise then that many miners have gone missing deep in the belly of the earth. One of the most traumatic instances of that is Luis Hernandez and 5 of his co-workers. The men were working down the Crandall Canyon mine in Utah on August 6, 2007, when the mine collapsed. Rescue teams worked relentlessly to retrieve the men, who they hoped were alive in a pocket of air underneath the rubble, believed to be 457 meters beneath the ground. Rescuers responded to sounds they believed were the trapped miners, but a second collapse killed 3 of the rescuers. In the end, the miners were never found, and the owner of the mine stated publicly that he believed the mine itself was evil. Number 3 is Brian Kerr. In 1957, a cave called Goyden Pot was the site of an unsolved missing persons case. The cave is located in Leeds in the UK and is a network of massive caverns and a maze of winding passageways. It's believed this cave system is kilometers long and was the last known location of Brian Kerr. The Leeds art student descended into Goyden Pot on a solo expedition, a mistake which would prove to be his last. No one is sure what happened to Brian, but after an extensive 7-hour search, rescuers discovered his clothes and his rucksack. It was as if he had vanished down there in the pitch black. Whether he swam in an underwater river and got caught up in its grip, or if he wandered into the dark passageways and lost his bearings, no one will ever know. Number 2 are the Hannibal Boys. One of the most perplexing underground disappearances is that of the Hannibal Boys. It took place in May of 1967. These boys from the nearby town of Hannibal, Missouri, were last seen heading south of the town at around 5 p.m. Witnesses stated that the boys had shovels and flashlights with them, and when asked what they were doing, the boys said that they were going to explore Murphy's Cave. No one knows what happened to them after that. One theory is that a nearby construction project caused one of the caves to collapse, and that the boys were in it at the time. Others believe that the boys were going somewhere else, or perhaps were snatched by a kidnapper. Several attempts have been made to find the bodies, and the failure of these attempts to find any new evidence has cast a long shadow on the town. And number 1 is Kenny Veatch. In 2014, YouTuber Kenny Veatch commented in a video that he had discovered a strange M-shaped cave just north of Las Vegas. People began asking him questions about the cave and were fascinated when Kenny described how the cave had a strange effect on his body. However, soon after, Kenny decided to make a video about the cave.
I'm looking for a cave that I found, and I didn't have a sidearm when I was here before, and something about that cave just spooked me. Out of all the caves I've ever gone in, this one just made my body vibrate. The closer I got to it, the crazier my body felt.
He was never seen again. One theory is that he was unprepared for the Nevada climate and succumbed to exposure, or he fell down an unknown cave. Some believe he was killed for being near a government base associated with several conspiracy theories. Others insist that he had an interest in the occult and encountered a dark supernatural force down in the darkness. Perhaps one day they will recover his camera and the truth will finally be revealed.